Great. Well, welcome everyone to our second CHIRP and Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan Cultural Program.
All
right, so this is a land acknowledgement. So we acknowledge that the Nisenan people are still here among us today, though nearly invisible. We understand that we are on Nisenan land that was never ceded, and the original tribal families have yet to recover from the near genocide of their people. As a resident or visitor in Nisenan land, we support the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe in efforts to stabilize their people, as well as their campaign to restore federal recognition. For more information and to support the tribe, visit nisenan.org. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Shelly Covert. And thank you for speaking today, Shelly.
Yes, awesome. So, Homakini, Homoyabimi, Nishinanamimi Wakamni, Lidam Lily Yapimni, Daspa Hedidi. So, today we're going to be reading my book that I wrote about my grandma, Anita Ope. And it's probably going to be pretty rough because I'm not a fluent speaker of Nisenan. So you're probably learning with me as I'm learning. This is the first Nisenan reader, and the entire book is written in Nisenan. It's been, putting the book together, compiling the story and the vision and the idea was, the easy part, I guess. We worked with our linguist, Dr. Sherry Tatch, and she also had, before she was a linguist, she got her first degree in studio art. And so she illustrated the book. And it's really beautiful. She did all the translations as well because she is an amazing linguist. And she works in both Nisenan and Miwok languages. So yeah, I guess we'll just start there. I'm just going to read it straight through in Nisenan. And then if we have time for questions and to go a little deeper into the translations and the pronunciation guide and those kind of things, we can do that. All right. Yeah, I guess we'll just start there. And do we have slides, or shall I just share the pages as I go? Is Megan there still? Megan?
Yes, I am trying to pull up the slides now.
We do have slides. Great. Okay, I wasn't sure. I can't remember. Mom, you can sit by me if you want.
Shelly.
Yes.
Shelly.
Yes.
Shelly.
Yes.
Hey, it's Ember. I'm super sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say that I know there's a lot of library programs. Tomorrow is actually the book read.
We're not doing the book read right now?
Tomorrow at 2.
Oh, that's so funny.
Today is one of the cultural programs. The one about Nisenan culture, Lifeways, traditions. I know Shelly's been super
glad
nervous.
Somebody out there in the world knows what I'm doing.
I'm so sorry. I was just following along because I'm helping with the storybook tomorrow too. So
you're so,
I was just like, oh yeah, you're
so
right.
Great. Nobody ever would have known. Okay, Mom, it's not the book read. I just had mom's coming in here. She's all ready to go. Yeah, a day in the head of my life. I'm so sorry about that. So what are we're talking about cultural lifeways, practices, leadership. That's right. Thank you guys so much. And thank you for your patience while I just go off on my little tangents about.
I can read out the blurb if that helps.
Yes, please. That's awesome.
So today is the importance of community education and visibility. CHIRP builds and produces many projects that further knowledge about the Nisenan of today and solidifies the inclusion of their ancient presence in the annals of history. Each person educated breaks the mold of Gold Rush history and identity so deeply steeped in our community's mindset, offering a deeper and older look at the Nisenan people who have always been here.
Very nice. Maybe we should always start with that introduction so I know what I'm doing. Oh, that's so great. All right. So I'm trying to change my view here real quick. That's better. I don't like looking at my big face all the time. So what great topics. 1 second. All right. Well, to center myself and to get my head in the right space, because obviously I'm not anywhere near where I'm supposed to be, I'm going to sing a song with you all. So, since we're talking about tradition and lifeways, I don't know if you can see this with my virtual background, that this, whoop, this is a music stick. It's a rattle. And this was made for me by a very good friend who we just lost. They just passed away recently. And it's made with abalone shells. And it sounds really beautiful. So I think I'm going to, let's see, what song will I sing? Right. Solimeriquenam, 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 wupum kuyanin, wupum kuyanin, wupum kuyanin, wupum kuyanin. Yapai toto, yapai toto, yapai toto, yapai toto. Solimeriquenam, 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 wupum kuyanin, wupum kuyanin, wupum kuyanin, wupum kuyanin, yapai toto, yapai toto, yapai toto, yapai toto. Solimeriquenam, 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 solimeriquenam. Whee! All right. And since we're talking about these things today, I'm gonna do, since I sorted out my jewelry last night that was all in a big heap on my desk, to go along with the abalone, one of the really important trade items and something that was very much in demand here was any kind of a shell that can make beads and things that to adorn dance regalia and ceremonial regalia. So we say the word regalia, not the word costume, because a lot of times the dance outfits that people wear and the different adornments that they wear on their head, their ears, the jewelry, all the way down to the feet, is ceremonial sometimes, and it's very important. So it's not a costume, it's not just for dress up. So that's the word we use, is regalia. Here are some of my cousin Tiffany Adams is quite an incredible Native American contemporary artist. These are some of my favorite earrings, and you can see the long white beads are dentilium, and they're actually a sea creature. And they make, these are their little spines. and they make gorgeous jewelry. And the sound that they make, I don't know if you guys can hear that. That's just two things banging together. Again, with the abalone, here's another set of Tiffany's. They're just beautiful abalone. And then on the bottom of these, we've got pine nuts, which is just from our local pine trees here. Whoop, sorry about that. And she treats them so that they turn this gorgeous black. And the pine nut here was actually used as a trade commodity. So the women's money is one of the things they call it, because we love our pine nuts and we love our jewelry. So talking, it's really interesting, starting from something from that viewpoint of jewelry, which brings us into trade. What did the people here, the Nisenan people here in this territory, very specific geographic region, there are very strong borders with other local family groups, with other Nisenan people, as well as the Kankau or the Konimkawi and the Washo. So so much of the leadership, I would say all of the leadership was about relationship building and the ability to negotiate fairness. Everything that was in need of conversation or in need of sorting out went to the head people. So the way we organized was there was a head of the family, head of the town, and then head of a larger area. So the old people talked about language districts. That's how they separated themselves. So the district we're in here, so I'm in Grass Valley, so up in this area here, is called Nisimkawak. And that is the language district that we are living in. And it had its own set of leaders. And those leaders could be female or male. And the men leaders were called Hook, and the female leaders were called Mayan. And they were really, I think their biggest skill set was their ability to negotiate not only family things and, every day somebody's taking too much acorn or somebody's not doing this or that, all the different conflicts, that we have as communities. But it was their ability to negotiate peace as much as they could for trade. This region where we live geographically is so diverse. There is such an incredible arc of biodiversity here with the plants and animal life. My grandpa talked about the springs being extremely different from one another. Old Chief Kelly talked about a healing spring that our tribe up here would trade, and it was of great value because that spring, that water had healing properties. If you're confined in a geographic territory and respect the borders of the people around you, what's within that geographic area is that's your resources. You can't, it's not like today where corporate America, you can just, I can decide to, I don't know, go bottle water from Wyoming or somewhere. I can't just go do that. I mean, I can today, but you could not do that then because there were very serious boundaries and protections around any given tribe's resources, and they were protected very seriously. One of the examples I have is Auburn, because they're only 20 miles from us, and they're a different Nisenan dialect. They have different leaners, different holy people, different family hierarchy, and obviously control of their own resources within their geographic borders. And they had control of the salt flats down the hill. And the old story says if you were caught out near the salt flats and they asked you, who are you? And if you didn't answer in the right dialect, or I mean in Nisenan itself, I guess you were just kind of no trial and jury, just like it was very important with those relationships. It was all about relationships, the trade, I guess the diversity of the things that you could have. Like, we don't have abalone here in Grass Valley, but we have lots of abalone going way, way, way back. In a lot of the old burials, they find always abalone. Many of the different shells from the ocean were, extremely important here. And I think it's just sort of, how we are when you get something that, I don't know, maybe you get a little trinket from another country if somebody goes on vacation and they bring you something that's different. I mean, it's really exciting. And I can only imagine what that was like way back when. So that negotiation, that ability to lead, keeping in mind that the more peace that you can broker, the better, the better your life is, like the more enriched and diverse, especially thinking about foods, getting a lot of the different animals from the coastal tribes that we don't have here. And some of them came up the freshwater rivers, but I doubt they made it, maybe in San Francisco Bay, but I doubt they made it very far, maybe part way up the Sacramento, but I doubt they made it very far up the Yuba River, so we're not seeing that diverse, we're not seeing dolphins and the different ocean mammals like that making up into the interior of California where our tribe is. Of course, we had our freshwater animals that gave, a great plethora of their furs and their sometimes their meat if they were being eaten, but also I get sad sometimes because most of them are gone, because of the devastation of the gold rush and the changing of the land. And it was so, things were just so destroyed. And unfortunately, our big, huge old trees that existed here and much of the animal and plant life are no longer here for us to enjoy and learn from and be in a relationship with. So that trade was just really important. And the more I look back on the culture, especially the older I get, the more I look back, I just see what value, especially going through what we've been going through in the country, watching the politics, watching the extremes of people's points of view and their ideas, and being a really good leader and being able to negotiate all that. Because if the people didn't want to follow you, if they didn't like what you did, they just stopped following you. So most of the families were that leadership passed down through kinship. But if there was no one in the family who carried that ability, I suppose, or that gift of leadership, then they obviously they would go find people who had those leadership qualities. My friend Judith Lowry had told me a story from her tribe. She's Pit River and Mountain Maidu. And she had said that, back in the old day, the old ladies especially had a great say in who was appointed leader because they knew the children from the time they were small. And they got to see their, the kind of person that you are without the world's influence, I suppose, like how they acted on the playground, how they treated each other, if they were caring, helpful. And so a lot of times leaders, there is that natural innate ability, and you can see it, it's visible, the need to take care of people, the need to, or maybe people, they just can't handle chaos and they just want everybody to chill out and get along. But yeah, I think back to the personality of my grandpa, and he was such a, I guess, there's that stereotype, right, with Native Americans, sometimes the stoic, wise, quiet, reflectful, reflective person. And, to act out emotionally, they thought something was wrong with you if you you're acting like a child. Like no adult in the tribe was supposed to just like be emotionally, I don't know the word I'm looking for, outward. I remember feeling that way when I was little. My mom's, did she ever get on Zoom? Oh no, is she in here? I don't think so. Okay. My mom's tolerance level, like her bar was so low of what was acceptable and not acceptable. And, you know, I mean, I'd like to think I'm a pretty good, stable, chill, just kind of, you know, person. I don't emote unless I'm happy and stuff. But I'm not, I don't wear my emotions on my sleeve most of the time. And I do keep them in control. And I think that comes from my mom. And I think that she gets it from my grandpa and grandma. And I'm sure there's a lot of cultural conditioning in that as well. But tribally speaking, you know, to slam a door, to stomp off mad, to get up and yell in someone's face, those were things that adults did not do, and that that humans aren't supposed to do. You know, we're supposed to think and listen. And most of the time with the elders in the room, you know, you had to, geez, I don't even know how old I was before anybody listened to me, all my opinions, you know. But if you, I mean, when the elders were in the room, they're not listening to the kids. They're talking amongst themselves, and probably about pretty important stuff, I would imagine. But I mean, geez, I'm old. I'm going to be an elder one day soon. And I'm just now starting to have people listen to me. But, you know, it's like that really, that you need to sit back and listen and open your mind and understand what's going on around you before you open your mouth. I mean, what a difference of weight, you know, I mean, comparing to like versus Facebook. You know, like the meme train or whatever, where we can opinionate everything and anything we want to at any given time. And just from that, I mean, that, what a great comparison, I suppose. Pardon me, one second. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Hold one moment. Talking about my mom. I'm trying to get her to control the dog. She's just going crazy back there. All right. Anyway, so where were we? Talking about my mom. I was just talking about you, Mom, by the way.
Oh, you were. Okay.
I was. Yeah, so, you know, and with that, I think respect for one another, that is bound in the respect for the land and the respect for the animals, the respect for the dead that we have buried and are still here in the land. There's such a deep, vital respect that was part of life, part of conditioning our children to grow up to respect. I mean, what does respect even mean? It means, to me, I think it's just that, is for me to be quiet enough to hear you, for me to not be self-centered so much that I can't see the grace, being, intelligence and wisdom of an animal or a plant. Respect is, yeah, just like being quiet and slowing down and looking around and listening and trying to navigate that relationship with everything around you. And I do worry sometimes. I worry that we're all running about here and there so fast that, I mean, anything could be happening. And I'm not saying everybody, you know, and I may be speaking a little bit out of line here, but so many of us are. I know I felt like that today. I'm usually, well, I thought I was reading the book, and that's got me really freaked out. So now it's tomorrow. So now I have to freak out for another day. I'm so scared I'm going to mess up. Anyway, but you know, even today, what I was running around trying to take care of things in the house this morning because I knew I had to work from home, and I start probably getting all meet, you know, and like, why? It's just a different time, I guess. You know, my grandpa, I mean, I think one of his biggest joys was just sitting and talking to people. He just would sit and talk. And one of the things he always said was, I'm going to try and do a good grandpa here. He'd say, you know, I'm a lot like you. He said that so much in his conversations with people. And I think that he truly was just always looking for common ground. He was always looking for that spark in people to bring into the conversation so that there were no outsiders. That's dangerous, you know, for a community, especially a small community. I mean, having people in your camp is super important, and not having enemies is super important. I mean, that I steer myself that way in life. I may have my personal opinions about things, but I will sit in the room with anyone. I don't care. I don't care what walk of life. I don't care what political affiliation. I think, you know, if anything were to ever happen, all we have is each other. And this is a small community. And I wish we had a little bit more of that. I wish I could get in there and disarm people just a tiny bit, and just to look at one another and see the value in each other. No matter how alien somebody might seem to you, you know, unless they literally have like tentacles and whatnot, then I might be a tiny bit scared. But I mean, unless they were trying to eat my face, I probably would still be happy and intrigued, and I would want to know. I would want to know what they know. And I would like for them to be intrigued with me enough that maybe they want to know about me a little bit, you know, and not eat my face off, which would be great. But I think that it's so incredible with everything that happened to the tribes, actually, I mean, across the nation. You know, you have these ancient societies that are thousands of years old. If you look back through some of, Edward Curtis was one of the last, he was one of the first to photograph some of the last Native people in just their traditional clothing. And even at that point in time, I know when he got out here to California to do his work, he had said that the tribes were already so blown up that there was hardly anything left to capture of the original societies that existed here. And, you know, he's gotten some hard criticism because people know that some of those shots were staged, like they weren't out in their natural environment or whatever. But even with that, if you just look at, I was looking at one of the Hopi images that he had, and you look at the woman's hair, her regalia, you know, her jewelry, her jewels, her bling, her clothes, every piece of her outfit, of what she looked like, is part of a society. It's part of an economic system. It's part of a religious system. It's part of, I mean, it probably, if we knew a little more looking at these photos, that you could tell her status in her family and in her tribe. You know, is this a leader? Is she is she wearing items of clothing or jewelry that shows her status as a leader? If you look back at just Curtis's stuff and you see the immense and beautiful diversity of the Native American people across California, it's staggering because so many people don't even know that they were here, let alone that these were amazing individual old ancient societies that were each evolved from their own innerness. You know, and we had that here too. And when we talk about the gold rush and we talk about the swiftness of loss of life here, and we talk about the destruction of nature at that point in time, and I remember my own journey when I was younger. The California state flag that has the grizzly bear on it, but there were no grizzlies in California, and I was like, that's weird. Why is that? Why do you have something on the flag that we don't even have here in California? You know, which spurred on a conversation with my grandpa about the grizzly bear and how they were hunted to near extinction, and then the ones that were left were exported out of the state. My grandma and my grandpa, my mom and all her siblings, they lived outdoors a lot. They would follow grandpa around when he was on work, and he worked out in the woods a lot. And so they lived out in the redwoods this one time when I think my mom was like 4. So this, you know, quite a long time ago, but not 1800s. We're talking like 1940s, early 1950s, which is also a shocker. But they had no house. They lived outdoors. They like literally had like cardboard hanging. And they lived outdoors, and they were up by Little Grass Valley. I don't know if you guys know the area around here, but they used to take the bears from Yosemite and ship them up, just like let them go up in Little Grass Valley, like long ago. And they actually have a story about my mom waking up in the middle of the night, her and grandma and her sisters, and there were 2 bears fighting right in their camp, like knocked down their little cardboard house. And my Aunt Bertie, who's my mom's oldest sister, mom had a dog named Pal. And I guess he was just freaking out because the bear was there. And Aunt Bertie had a little tiny chihuahua she named Pixie Diamond. And the dog went out to like run the bears off. Pal went out and the bear swiped him, and mom said it just knocked him out, and he went boom, and he just fell over. But Pixie Diamond was too fast for the bears to get, and I guess she was running around their feet and barking. They didn't like her because she was probably way too tiny and maybe freaked them out. But the bear couldn't swap little Pixie Diamond because he was too small. And I think about my grandmother like raising children in that atmosphere, and I'm spoiled. I'm a spoiled girl. You know, I've got I guess we all are, right? We got our cars and our heat and air conditioner and my dishwasher and, you know, clothes washing machines, all this kind of stuff. Grandma, you know, raised those girls out in the middle of the woods with nothing, just her knowledge, her and grandpa. And you know, there's stories of my mom. She had a skirt on and she got too close to the campfire and she caught on fire. And of course she ran, and grandma was trying to catch her, and she kept saying, "Stop, Ginger, stop." But mom saw the horse trough, I guess, at the end of the field, and she was running for the horse trough. And I guess grandma finally outran her and caught her and rolled her, and she got in trouble for standing too close to the fire. But, you know, stories like that are just, I mean, that comes, you know, and there's my grandpa out working in the woods. Like that was the only job he could get to take care of his family, was to cut down redwood trees, you know. And my grandma worked out there right beside him. She always tell me, I can remember it today, I can hear her as plain as day. They would cut Hollywood shakes, they call them. They were shingles, 25 to a stack, and they would cut the shingles, and then grandma would pull on this big bar and it would wrap the wire around it, and they would make these little bundles. And she was pregnant when she was doing this. And, you know, when you're pregnant, they tell you not to even reach up all the time. And she's grabbing this big bar and like wrapping these redwood shingles, you know, and needless to say, Aunt Lorena was born super premature. I guess she fit in Grandpa's hand, and she was see-through. She didn't have any fingernails and didn't have any eyelashes. I wonder how premature she was. And out in the middle of nowhere with, when I think it was my other aunt, Grandma's got 6 girls, and she had the second girl, my Aunt Doris, at home by herself. Grandpa was working on the PG&E lines and he was snowed out somewhere. And so she was in the cabin by herself. Had Aunt Doris was 10 pounds at home alone by herself. And she did it. She always said, why they would lay a woman down in bed to have a baby is just beyond me. You got to get up there and, you know, do your thing. And, but I think it was when she had Aunt Marianne, one of the girls, but she went to the hospital and they wouldn't let her in. They didn't serve Indians at the time. It must have been like was that Bertie? Maybe it was Bertie, 1940. So we're not talking 1840, we're talking 1940, when they had signs in the windows that said no dogs, no Indians allowed, that type of thing. Just kind of, you know, we've come far. I guess it's not good to dwell on those kind of things, but that my family like lived in all that and somehow survived. I know not everybody survived, but our family did. And at the core of all that was Grandpa and Grandma just listen, you know. I'm sure, again, like I was saying, it's probably a lot of cultural conditioning as well, that they weren't allowed to like really have a voice, you know. But I just feel it all wrapped up within that, with the way that the tribe leads itself. Going from what was the beauty, never, you know, like I wish we could go back with the knowledge that we all have now and bring some of those societies back. I mean, what did they know? Like thousands of years, a society that old, what did they know that we will never get to know because they're no longer here? And I mean, it's so weird. It's just, I've never really thought about all these things in this context of like leadership and just the quality of person to be a leader and what that says for the entire society. Like there's a set of rules that are very strict. I mean, that's the tribal protocol of how you act to one another and what you do and don't do in society. I don't think there were, you know, there were hard edges. Like if you were a person who did things that were outside of society's norm, if you were like really mean or yucky or cruel or just wrong, the way that people shouldn't be with one another, sometimes you were just killed. Like there wasn't a lot of room for that kind of thing in such a small, tight-knit community. And at the same time, there were no strangers. Like really, everything, I mean, all of our families are so closely knit. You got to be careful that you don't fall in love with your cousin or something. You know, close cousins nowadays. If there's I remember growing up too, there was a good-looking Native American guy who was probably my cousin. You know, so but that, I just think that it all comes back to that deep respect, the respect that shows in all of it shows in our creation stories, it shows in our religion, and it shows in the way that the earth meant a lot to the people, because humans aren't supposed to be the top, the smartest, the best. in charge of everything, doing everything we want every day. I want a dam over there, and I want a road over there, and I want this, and I want that, and I want this, and I want that. It's not the way most old indigenous societies worked. You could not be that way and continue to exist for thousands of years, like true stability and sustainability. It's just not a way you can be. I think we're seeing that a lot today as my whole heart is always with the animals. And going back to that grizzly story, like that there are no California grizzlies here. The grizzly bear Yom Kappa is one of our main teachers in all of our creations, in our creation stories, and everything in the time before humans, when animals were just here and humans weren't even here yet. It's the animals who are the ones that teach us the stories. Like from bear, we learn how to mother our families. Every animal has a teaching that it brings with you, or brings to you with it, from it. And so the grizzly being like the king of, it's a terrible word to use, very dominant, obviously, very smart, very powerful, very, very, very smart. It's centered in so many of our Nisenan stories, and it's gone. Like there's no grizzlies here in California anymore. And that makes me sad. And it makes me sad that another one of the beings in our stories is the condor. And it was almost extinct. I mean, came back from like 18, I think, in California before they caught them all and then raised them up and set them free. Like the stories that that bird has were important for humanity's survival here. Like you look to these animals to learn what to do, and that so many of them are gone, and the great herds that used to be here are no longer here. I don't know. I don't want to be a downer, but it makes me worry about humans. Like who told us that we were like better than everybody else and have the right to just go and devastate or take away the home of an animal because I don't know what, because it's inconvenient, because they're scratching my wood on my house, or I just feel that those moments are where we're gonna, those are the key things that are gonna get us in trouble. Because if we can't navigate the most simple thing, and I going back to the amazing navigating techniques and leadership abilities of the people in some of the tribes, amazing navigating abilities to keep peace. And what do we do? You know, if we have too many weeds, we just spray it with something. And I should say all of us, because I know, we're in a community that is conscientious of these things. So please don't take offense. I don't mean to lump everybody in the same boat, but at the same time, like we know better, maybe most of us here, maybe we know better than to, or we understand the ramifications if we spray something or we wipe out an entire species of animals. But also in this amazing country with so much freedom and privilege and opportunity that we have as American people, and we know better, we still sit in a powerless position with, Joe Q over here, who does drive 4 states over and devastates their land through maybe some bad business practices or whatever he's doing over there, or she. And we're all helpless. Like it really hit me hard the other day when we were talking about the Idaho Maryland mine reopening, that they're trying to get that reopened. And I mean, it hit my funny bone. I don't know why, but somebody had said that not only did everybody living there not want it, and not only that, but it was a company that wasn't an American company. And like, and I just started thinking, and I'm like, so what you're saying really is that somebody from another country can just drive their truck down, fill it up with part of Grass Valley, and drive away and like leave a mess and make a bunch of money off of it. How is that even if we could just tear down all the, you know, the smoke and mirrors around all this stuff and say it like that, like that's not right. And how do I, as a neighbor, if all the people who are living there don't want something, I mean, it's so much the anti, like Nisenan old tribal way of being, where like not a single decision is made without consensus. Like I mean, our tribe decisions are slow. And sometimes it's just like, we'll let that sit a while. And then you're like, how long's a while? Is it done sitting yet? I'm the same way. Poor Amber, she's my assistant. And I'll say, I don't know. Well, yeah, I'll have to think about that one. And sometimes I don't even know why. It's just like, meh, nope. That if it doesn't feel right. And it's just, I don't know. But I worry about society. I worry, how do we sustain this thing that we're all riding in, you know? And I know there are no easy answers. And I do sometimes get a tiny bit bitter if I see some corporation over there, you know, doing all this damage to the earth, and yet I shouldn't leave my car idling for like 10 minutes and I have to feel bad about that. You know, because I'm selfish, you know, because I want it all easy, and I want it, and I don't want to have to feel bad about that. Yet, you know, neighbor Susan over there is doing the lion's share of damage to the earth and the planet that's affecting us all. Or, you know, practices of the old way that they used to hunt, which was with such art and such respect. And I know one of the old stories I know is that when the settlers came and they brought pigs with them and they fenced stuff that they were going to eat, the native people were like so lazy. Right? What are you doing? And then on the reverse side of that, I've seen the old historic writings where the government is saying, you don't need, you know, 500 acres to go chase your food around. Here's a 1/4 acre, put it, you know, and it's just like night and day. Like, talk about the clash of cultures. Bam. The mindset. There's another story of the first settlers, part of the immigrant trail group before the Donner Party, that came over Banner Mountain, and one of the old ladies at the reservation, well, it wasn't a reservation then, one of the old ladies in Wustama, Nevada City, she was a little girl, and they heard the cart first, the wagon, and it came over the hill and it drove right through the big meadow, which was their food source. They were talking about the fine grains. I was reading that the other day, like grass heads. They'd go around and just hit all the grasses off into their basket. And I guess it was yummy. Tiny seeds though, a lot of work, tiny seeds. I guess they were just amazingly delicious. But, you know, the oxen cart, and they drive right through the food source. And again, it was another one of those moments where people are like, what are you doing? Why? That's our food. Like, can you not go around? Or, you know, like, why are you driving that thing anyway and having those animals pull your thing? I mean, it probably was just what a weird moment to imagine. Anyway, you know, all that, I'm going to wrap up here. All of that, I think it just keeps making me amazed that there's any spark of that